Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Janatiravana Chari Yamunatiravana Chari Jarada Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayarada Madhava Kunja Vihari Govijana Ballabha Givaradhari Govijana Ballabha Givaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamunatiravana Chari Yamunatiravana Chari Jayarada Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayarada Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivājakacharya Sata Srimad Chidananda Goswami Shlesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivājakacharya Sata Srimad Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Govinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jhun Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So we're continuing our reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, the second canto, and we are, what is it, text, chapter 3, text 12. So it's a lot easier for me to read it here because of my eyes. So I'm going to just pull it up. Oh. Not good internet here. One second. Maybe I can try. Excuse me. I just have to shine a light here. My eyesight, at this age, things start to go. And for me, it's been okay. Jñānaṁ yad āpratinivṛtta-guṇormi-cakram. I'm still having trouble. Okay, that's better. ātma-prasāda iha yatra guṇasaṅgaḥ guṇeṣv saṅgaḥ kaivalya-sammata-pathas atha bhakti-yogaḥ. Ko nirvṛto hari-kathāsu ratim kuryāt. Jñānaṁ āpratinivṛtta-guṇormi-cakram. ātma-prasāda yatra guṇeṣv asaṅgaḥ kaivalya-sammata-pathas bhakti-yogaḥ nirvṛto hari-kathāsu ratim kuryāt. So others, please. Let's pray. Ladies. Jñānam, knowledge. Yat, that which. Up to the limit of. Pratinivṛtta, completely withdrawn. Guṇa-ūrmi, the waves of the material modes. Cakram, whirlpool. ātma-prasāda, self-satisfaction. Atha, moreover. Yatra, where there is. guṇeṣu, in the modes of nature. asaṅgaḥ, no attachment. Kaivalya, transcendental. Sammata, approved. Pathaḥ, path. To, but. Atha, therefore. Bhakti-yogaḥ, devotional service. Kah, who. nirvṛtaḥ, absorbed in. hari-kathāsu, in the transcendental topics of the Lord. Ratim, attraction. Na, shall not. Kuryāt, do. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Transcendental knowledge in relation with the Supreme Lord Hari is knowledge resulting in the complete suspension of the waves and whirlpools of the material modes. Such knowledge is self-satisfying due to its being free from material attachment, and being transcendental, it is approved by authorities. Who could fail to be attracted? Me. Anyway, not actually true, and we'll talk about that. According to Bhagavad Gita 10:9, the characteristics of pure devotees are wonderful. The complete functional activities of a pure devotee are always engaged in the service of the Lord. And thus, the pure devotees exchange feelings of ecstasy between themselves and relish transcendental bliss. This transcendental bliss is experienced even in the stage of devotional practice, sadhana avastha, if properly undertaken under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. And in the mature stage, the developed transcendental feeling culminates in realization of the particular relationship with the Lord by which a living entity is originally constituted, up to the relationship of conjugal love with the Lord, which is estimated to be the highest transcendental bliss. Thus, bhakti-yoga, being the only means of God realization, is called kaivalya. Srila Jiva Goswami quotes the Vedic version, Eko narayano deva paravaranam parama aste kaivalya samgitaha, in this connection, and establishes that Narayan, the personality of Godhead, is known as kaivalya, and the means which enables one to approach the Lord is called the kaivalya panta, or the only means of attainment of Godhead. This kaivalya panta begins from Shravana, hearing those topics that relate to the personality of Godhead, and the natural consequence of hearing such hari-kathā is attainment of transcendental knowledge, which causes detachment from all mundane topics, for which a devotee has no taste at all. For a devotee, all mundane activities, social and political, become unattractive. And in the mature state, such a devotee becomes uninterested even in his own body. What to speak of bodily relatives? In such a state of affairs, one is not agitated by the waves of the material modes. There are different modes of material nature, and all mundane functions in which a common man is very much interested, or in which he takes part, becomes unattractive for the devotee. This state of affairs is described herein as pratinivṛtta-guṇormi, and it is possible by ātma-prasāda, or complete self-satisfaction without any material connection.
the first-class devotee of the Lord, attains this stage by devotional service. But despite his loftiness, for the Lord's satisfaction, he may play the voluntary part of a preacher of the Lord's glory and dovetail all into devotional service. Even mundane interest, just to give the neophytes a chance to transform mundane interest into transcendental bliss. Srila Rupa Goswami has described this action of a pure devotee as nirbandham Krishna sambandhai yuktam vairagyam uchyate. Even mundane activities dovetailed with service to the Lord are also calculated to be transcendental or approved kaivalya affairs. Om Ajnana Tulandasya Gyananjanasya With your permission, I'll try to speak something of my reflections on this. When I read just now about how a pure devotee, what did Srila Prabhupada say here? The first class devotee of the Lord, despite his loftiness, for the Lord's satisfaction, may play the voluntary part of a preacher of the Lord's glory and dovetail all into devotional service, even mundane interest, just to give the neophytes a chance to transform mundane interest into transcendental bliss. And a story came to my mind of Srila Prabhupada, which I hope many of you may have heard, and I'll try to relate it as I remember it. This took place in the Bhaktivedanta manor. I'm not sure, it must have been 74, 75, in those days, when Srila Prabhupada was still quite active and healthy. And as was the practice and the aspiration of devotees in Srila Prabhupada's presence to bring prominent people to Srila Prabhupada. They brought, and now here I'll need some help if somebody remembers the name of this famous race car driver. Was it Sheldy or Sheldon or something like that? Anyone remember? Nope. Okay. What's that? Paul Newman? No, Paul Newman is an actor. Race car driver. Anyway. Yes, Paul Newman? Was that the name? Anyway, we'll look it up. Name is not so important. But there was devotees there, and they observed that Srila Prabhupada began just talking about cars. He started talking about this car and what about that car, and he seemed to know a lot about cars. And for 10, 15 minutes or whatever, they just talked about cars. And finally, towards the end, he said something a little bit about Krishna. They have a lively conversation. And then prasadam, and the man left, and he was in bliss. He had bliss by the association of a pure devotee. If Srila Prabhupada had sat there just, what is this useless
activity of driving cars around a circle just to win some prize. What's going? It would just be, he wouldn't have any bliss. But by this interaction, by dovetailing mundane interest, this was his mundane interest. This was this man's fully mundane interest. But Prabhupada found a way to dovetail his interest into a practice, into a method by which he would get some transcendental bliss by interacting, having exchange with a pure devotee of Krishna. This, I wish I'd had a little more time to prepare this morning, because maybe someone else here remembers. When Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur established Ultadanga Road, after some time, how many of you have visited the renovated now Ultadanga Road? Isn't it so amazing? Just incredible. If you haven't done so, please make it in your agenda to go and step back in time. It's like that. It feels, at least that was my feeling, that I was stepping back into that time and feeling the presence of Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta and the whole Sankirtan movement as it was coming back to life from that spot. But as we all should know, after some time, some very wealthy supporters arranged for the construction of the Bagh Bazaar Gaudiya Math, which is another very important place to visit. And as recounted, a procession was held to bring the deities of Gandharvika Giridhari from and Gauranga Mahaprabhu from Ultadanga Road to the which was a rented premise to the Bagh Bazaar Gaudiya Math. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati composed a verse for this occasion. And I'll start it off, and if anyone knows Pujala Rangas, anyone remembers this verse? I know basically what it says, but the Bengali I forget, and I anyway didn't get time to prepare well enough. But basically it says that on the surface it seems that the devotees, Gaurava Bhange, that the devotees are engaging all kinds of Vishaya, the word Vishaya is used, the means of this material world they're using, because this was Bhaktisiddhanta's methodology. He used everything to serve Krishna, including marble temples and especially the printing presses. So this spirit of using everything, Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe, that was Bhaktisiddhanta's strategy, and that is what Srila Prabhupada picked up. That is what he employed to establish the Krishna consciousness movement. And that is what we have to learn, how to employ this strategy in our own lives and in the propagation of Krishna consciousness. It is an art. It is an art. How to simultaneously use the material world, the material facilities, use the functions of our bodies and minds to serve Krishna without attachment. So this verse gives us some hints, and this, but it begins with an interesting
question, at least for me, because it says, who could fail to be attracted? Transcendental knowledge, it brings about it says such knowledge is self-satisfying. It results in the complete suspension of the waves and whirlpools of the material modes. Who could fail to be attracted? And then when I read this, I said, well, okay, me. I could be failed to be. Am I attracted? How attracted am I to the topics of Krishna? And then I thought a bit, and I thought, well, I may not be so attractive to hari-kathāsu, but I'm very much attracted to what it's supposed to result in. That I'm attracted to. I would like to see the cessation of the waves of material modes of nature. Is there anyone in the room here who would like to stay in this ocean of the waves of material modes of nature? No? Really? You sure? We're attracted to that promise. That is so attractive. So we have to learn how to take that attraction, the attraction that we have naturally, to get free. We all have a burning desire to some extent to get free of this ocean of ups and downs. Sometimes it comes in the feeling of I want peace and contentment. I've asked that in New York. We spend Jimmy is here. He's from New York, and so people come for our Lotus Room program. He's one of the people who get people to come to our Lotus Room program. And these are new people off the New Yorkers of various persuasions. And after some presentations, there's a little prasadam and there's an opportunity to interact. And often I pose the question, what do you want? What do you aspire for? Why are you here? What are you looking for? And very often the answer is, I'm looking for peace. I want contentment in life. People are looking to get free of the waves of these material modes, because these waves of the modes, they push us up and they pull us down. I suppose not all of you have had much experience in our physical oceans. How many of you have gone for swimming in, say, in Puri or, yeah? I mean, Puri or in the Atlantic or Pacific or so on? Somewhere. So if you've gone into those waves and you know how they act, you know that if you go in and they're coming and whoosh, they come over you. And then another thing happens. It's called the undertow. And it pulls you down and underneath. One time I was swimming with my children in the Indian Ocean in Kerala. And we were caught in that undertow. And I was just being bounced around like that, hitting the bottom, and I still have a scar inside of my mouth from it. People die this way. You'll see in these oceans, there's a beware of the undertow. So the waves of the modes, they lift you up and then they pull you down. They turn you around. There's all turbulence in the effects of the material modes of nature. So who is not attracted to a promise of freedom?
But then when it comes to the actual practice required to achieve this result, then we come into confrontation with our conditioning. We come into confrontation with the attachments in our hearts. When we start to have to deal with the modes of nature as they are operating within us, within our minds and within our hearts, not just externally, but in our minds, then the work begins, the struggle. But if we continue with that, under the guidance, this is what Srila Prabhupada points to. He says that even in the stage of devotional practice, sadhana avashta, if properly undertaken under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada has given us a sadhana, a practice, by which even in our current state, as is said here, what does it say exactly? This transcendental bliss is experienced even in the stage of devotional practice. That even in our stage of not having natural attraction. Because when I first read this question at the end, who can fail to be attracted? Well, I was relating it to that natural attraction. Who can fail? But I don't have natural attraction. I don't have raganuga. My attraction to devotional life is built. It's built up. It's built on the promise that this devotional practice will give me freedom. It's built on some knowledge that I've received from Srila Prabhupada. But it's still not bursting forth from my heart with just nothing else. So I'm in that stage of sadhana avashta. Avashta means platform, situated, right? I'm on the sadhana avashta, the practice platform. But because I'm attempting to do this under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada, yes, there's some bliss. There's some bliss. Where's this bliss coming from? In the verse that Prabhupada refers to, Bhagavad Gita, in the purport to that particular verse, and I was going to try to read it. I don't know if I can. Let me see if I can. I'm not getting a good internet connection. Oh yeah, here we go. Let's just read it. Mat-chitta mad-gata prana bodhiyanta parasparam katayantas chamam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. These are the pure devotees. Naturally attracted, naturally engaged. But what about me? A sadhana bhakta. So in this purport, Srila Prabhupada describes something called the bhakti lata bij. The bhakti lata. And he describes how by the grace of Guru and Krishna, we get a seed. A seed is planted in us. And by the practice, the seed is watered and begins to grow. And it begins, even in its growing state, to bring some experience of the bliss that it ultimately will bring forth in the spiritual world. So this bliss of Krishna consciousness that we get in practice is the result of the seed, the gift, the grace of Guru and Krishna. There is some philosophical, I should say, debates going on amongst some devotees, scholarly devotees, who have been studying the works of Jiva Goswami and the Sandarbhas and so on, about the question of whether bhakti and love of Krishna is inherent in the jiva or is bestowed on the jiva. And one of the devotees in this debate says, well, it's both. In the verse that we just referring to, Srila Prabhupada, in that purport, he describes what does he say? He uses that same term, constitutional position. Anyway, I'm not finding it immediately. But basically it's that idea, that principle that the jiva has. In today's purport also, he described how the jiva has a constitutional relationship, a relationship of love with Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada is describing that there is already within us, inherent, there is the relationship with Krishna of love. But because it is dormant, because it is sleeping, because it is not awakened, we need the grace of Guru and Krishna to bring it forth. So that seed of bhakti lata takes place something like the conception. This is my understanding. Between a man and a woman, both parts are needed. The man has his part, the woman has their part. When they come together, the child is born. So our inherent propensity, our proclivity, our constitutional nature to serve Krishna is there already. But for it to be brought out of the Maya that we have come under, we need the grace of Guru and Krishna. We need the guidance. Therefore, our sadhana is effective as practiced under the guidance of the spiritual master. So, and the result, even in the beginning stages, as described here, we will get some taste that impels us to go forward and to pursue this path. Prior to this verse, Sukadev is giving all kinds of other options. You want this, you worship this deva. You want this, you worship this deva. You want this, you go this. And then finally he says, well, actually akama sarva kama va moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena. That whatever you want, you should just worship Krishna. Whatever you want. This is another perspective of this principle of yukta vairagya. That we have, by taking our desires in this world and bringing them into relationship with Krishna, by using or worshiping Krishna to fulfill those desires become purified. Srila Prabhupada's, whether Paul Newman or Sheldon or whatever he was, his discussion, this man, his desire was racing cars and so on. But by engaging in conversation about that with a pure devotee, he got definitely a very good future, whether this life or the next life. So this is also our practice. Whatever our desires are in this world, whatever our aspirations are, if we can find a way to connect them to Krishna's service, then they will be pure. The activity itself will be purified. We will become purified. And our bhakti lata will continue to grow. So our Mayapur project is meant to be a place for us to practice, put all of this into practice. We are here, most of us here, and now I'm in the vanaprastha ashram, but most of you are in grihastha ashram or in brahmachari. There's a number of brahmacharis here as well, but the grihasthas I think are also quite a good number. And there's probably many, I know I'm one of those who dovetails the the internet to listen to this class while I'm doing my pujas and so on at home. So I expect there's many of you out there, Hare Krishna, that are listening, who are in the similar grihastha situation, have so many things you have to do, and so you're trying to use this place, this Mayapur Dham, as an opportunity to dovetail, to take your grihastha life and see how you can pursue it in service. This is the core of what we need to aspire as a community. How can we assist each other? How can we work together so that our material lives, our mundane lives, as Srila Prabhupada uses the term here, our mundane lives become infused with the service of Krishna. So this can take so many different forms. It can mean that you're running a store and you're producing quality goods which you can offer to the devotees at a reasonable price and with good service. But it can also, in this respect, there can also be some danger, because as we try to dovetail our material activities, we may not see the dovetailing part, and we may get too much caught up in the material part, and we can make offenses. Especially those, at least I found that there are, I just this morning, I heard about someone who has, anyway, done, because of some disagreements and financial things and money not paid and this and that, and then the court cases and threats, and there have been occasions here in our Mayapur, very unfortunate, really unfortunate. Sometimes mysterious. I mean, I don't want to get too much into such discussion. But there is a danger in our attempts to pursue yukta vairagya. of misusing this opportunity to dovetail material life and to become using it as an excuse to gratify our senses and do other things and then offend devotees. Therefore, this path of yukta vairagya is sometimes described as something like a razor's edge. If you use a razor, you use this principle of yukta vairagya. If you use a razor and you're inattentive, you can cut yourself. You can kill yourself. I mean, I don't think anyone would slit their throat, but they could certainly get a good, nice bit of blood out. So we have to be careful not to, on the basis of yukta vairagya, well, we begin to exploit the devotees. Or we begin to just use our material facilities for our sense gratification only. The Mayapur project is meant to be an example, meant to be an ideal. I've told this story a number of times, and I have to end now. But when I first came here in 1976, and I was asked by the management to remain, I had been serving in New York City in management there, and I got swept up into the management here, and so I was asked to stay, and our GBC was new, and so he said, we have to ask Srila Prabhupada. And when we walked in to see Srila Prabhupada, he was, my recollection is we're reflecting on some current affairs. Something was going on in India that was, disturbing. And he commented, we cannot expect the whole world to be Krishna conscious. But there should be one ideal place. And by his gestures and by his mood, I took it that he was talking about here, our Mayapur project. It should be an ideal place. So let us all work together to use this principle, yukta vairagya, using everything, all the facilities that we have, so much facility we have, under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada, in order to cultivate our own devotional service, to share it with others, and to create an example for the whole world. Hare Krishna. Sorry for taking a little too much time, but we have another 5 minutes left, so we can have comments and questions, and I see a few hands. I saw your hand first, and then Mishra, and then Mataji. So.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for your deep realization. And you have rightly pointed out that we are into ups and downs of the material energy, 3 modes of material nature. And Prabhupada always told that go back to home, go back to Godhead. And we know the theory part, the knowledge part. But we cannot put into practice, you have rightly said. So here comes the word determination. So how we can more determined? So where we are lacking, would you please explain, Prabhuji?
Well, determination comes from many, many different things. But I would say that generally speaking, if you look in your life, what do you become determined to do? Your determination will be based on your desire for that thing, and the more you know and understand the benefit that will come from what you're determined to get, the more determined you will be to get it, right? So in my own life, I find that my determination for practice of devotional service is really most founded on my knowledge, the knowledge that I've received, and not knowledge just theoretical knowledge, but knowledge with experience, because I've seen that in the past, when I have been determined, when I have done, then I get wonderful experience of Krishna consciousness. So based on my then I get reminded, okay, just, come back, revive it. We chanting japa is a platform of determination. There's we were gone to a holy name retreat recently, and Burijan Prabhu has his own mantra for mantra chanting, and he says for every mantra, each mantra you internally make a determination. I am going to hear this mantra. So the practice of evoking your determination to do one little thing, one small thing, just one mantra, that determination will build and develop. So I would suggest that focus your determination on things that you should be able to do, and then build it up. Yes, Mishra.
This purport has a lot of encouraging words like ecstasy, highest transcendental bliss.
Yes.
Happiness. So sometimes the devotees are following everything that they think that they can follow. The 4 regs, 16 rounds, going the full morning program, going on Sankirtan, studying the books, serving Vaishnavas, but something for years and just doesn't seem to really break into the kind of ecstasy and transcendental bliss that this purport talks about. Is there somewhere along the line that you break on through to the other side?
Break on through. He's a child of a certain time. Before everyone leaves, though, and before answering, I do want to make an announcement. Tomorrow, if you who come here, I will not be here, but I'm asking you to come and join me over at the Mayapur Community Park opening. We're going to start at 9 o'clock with kirtan, so everyone, we actually, please join us. Give your support for the development of our new park. We're going to open it up for the children and adults to use tomorrow at 9. His Holiness Jai Bhattak Maharaj has promised to come also to help us inaugurate, and we expect so many other devotees. So please do join us. So it's located in the Abhaynagar so-called area, just if you from this road here, just at the end of this road. You see it on the right. There'll be some signs. Now, your question. Break on through to the other side. Yes. I don't think that's just one side and another. My experience is that it's incremental. That it's like there are waves of the material modes of nature. Those waves continue even though we are practicing sadhana bhakti. Those waves continue in our lives, and from time to time they may push us down, and then it's more of a struggle to experience Krishna consciousness. And sometimes they're less active and we feel more bliss in Krishna consciousness. So the art is to gradually become transcendental to those waves, so that we're always experiencing Krishna consciousness. And I, at least what I've observed and what my experience is that our experience of Krishna consciousness is connected not just to the moment, to right now, what I'm doing right now, but it's influenced by what we did yesterday and what we've done a few days ago, and it for example, I've found that, say yesterday I had, maybe I had an argument with somebody, and I felt bad, or I, at least mentally, was offensive to a devotee. The next day, right away, I might not experience the effects, but the next day, my job is off, or things like that happen. And the opposite, if I do something really, something very concentrated in devotional service, then I see the results going on. The offenses in chanting, the offenses are mostly have to do with activities that we're doing when we're not chanting. So, offending Vaishnavas, or committing sins on the sanctums, chanting, and so on. These are all things that we might be doing, not while we're chanting, but in other times. So that's my personal experience, that when we are doing some devotional activities that are meant to give us a lot of bliss and ecstasy, and we're not feeling it, that we have to reflect on what did we do yesterday? What did we do a few days ago? What we were doing before that is now influencing me now? And is there? Yes, there's a point where we're through. That's this bhakti lata bij is described as piercing, ultimately piercing through all the layers of the material world, and then those waves are no longer there. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's my own reflection. And Mataji, I think you had a question. Is that Sridevi? I can't really see.
Yes, thank you. I have a question about, the conversation you had with His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, about the Mayapur project. And you mentioned that Srila Prabhupada wants this to be an ideal place.
Yes,
that will be an example for the whole world. So I have a question. Where does farm community figure in the master plan?
Well, it's a good question. Obviously, Srila Prabhupada described a city. Okay, so his vision was always that the Mayapur community would be in the form of a city. At the same time, he described it as being self-sufficient. So now you have a dilemma. How do you have self-sufficiency in a city? He never, from much, my study, and I've gone through all of his writings and talks and so on about Mayapur's development. Never, because he never gave us the blueprint for how this could be achieved. So it's up to us to figure it out. So, okay, so let's figure it out. I have my own, we've talked about this. I've been involved in the Mayapur project for now, 46 years. And I've been involved in multiple master planning efforts. So what I'm going to say is simply but I'm not currently involved in any master planning effort. Today Chaitanya Prabhu is here. He may be able to better answer. But my understanding and my suggestion has always been in the master planning effort that the farming takes place around us, which it's already doing. Farming is taking place all around us. If we can support local farmers, if we can support devotee farmers, and we can also work towards helping these farmers that are around us and helping the devotees who want to farm to establish a sustainable method of farming that is centered on cow protection, then we'll be moving in that ideal. Now, we're not doing that now. And I've spoken here on this, and everyone's free to leave. We're over our time, but I will, since you asked the question, I'll take an opportunity to again speak on a topic which is very, I'm very concerned about, and that is that our milk sources here are based on cow slaughter. We're really not much better here than in the West in terms of the nature of the milk that we are consuming. The milk supply, except for those few devotees who can get milk from the Goshala here supplies milk to the deities, and there's not much left. So there are maybe one or two devotees here with their own cows, but by and large, correct me if I'm wrong, and I would love to hear from any of you who is getting milk from other than one of the Goshas in this community. Anyone getting milk from some other source? From where? The Ghosh village, yes. So you're getting from the Goshas, the Gowalas, the farmers, the local farmers who keep cows. Now, I've studied those farmers. I've gone there. I've done a survey. And I found that in a population of, say, 100, the numbers are not in my head. In the population of, say, 200 cows, there are 5 bulls. There are 5 bulls. In the population of 200 cows, there's 3 or 4 over the age of 12. What does that mean? Where did those bulls go? They're not so advanced that they can determine the sex of the, and there are ways coming up now to do that through artificial insemination, etc. But generally speaking, what's happening is all the bull calves are getting sold. There's a market in Navadvip, there's a market in Krishnanagar where hundreds of cows are sold every day. And I'll just, you can just, where do you think they're going? Where do you see many bulls plowing the fields around here? Do you see many bulls, working? Where do you think they're going? How far are we from the Bangladesh border? So that's what's going on. And that's why you can get milk at 50 rupees or whatever it is a liter. But without the income, or I should say the lack of expense, because the farmers may not be earning a lot from the sale of their old animals. But what they are doing is they're avoiding the expense of keeping them. So I would say that in terms of being an ideal community, that's where we have to begin. We have to figure this out. And it means, as a community, it's not going to be easy. It means a lot of people saying, I'm willing to pay double or triple the price of milk in order to support these farmers, so that they don't, and they're, as you said, they're Goshas mostly. So they're almost all Hindu. And they don't personally, they have love, they have some affection, although, their cows are often cramped up and so on. But the economics force them. So, another plug. It can be all solved. All of these problems, all this farming, all these things are not rocket science. It's not like, so difficult. It just needs money and manpower. Individuals who are ready to really get into it, who are not so old like me. Hare Krishna. So anyway, I don't know if that's my personal answer. It's not an official answer from any official platform.
For your official answer, you can submit to the others. Thank you very much. I think that we'll have to end here. It's 9:15. Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada.